Hello Ignition Radio listeners and welcome back to Airtime of the Geek. It's Monday and it's 1pm GMT if you're listening live via our website or via TuneIn. If you're catching up on YouTube, then please like and subscribe to this video and our channel. Comments, queries, suggestions, you can follow me on Twitter, it's at Airtime Geek. Instagram is at Airtime of the Geek. You can email me, it's paulab@ignitionradio.co.uk. You can call in the studio, it's 01642 329 620, which is our new number. It's the 20th of June. Yes, there's been an absence for the last few weeks, but I'm back and ready to fulfill your geek fix. Very soon coming, there will be my own Airtime of the Geek website. It's currently under construction. The web address will be airtimeofthegeek.xyz or XYZ if you're in the States. For this week's Top 10, we are counting down my Top 10 movies to test if you have a soul. Almost everyone has a weepy movie that makes them cry a little bit, whether it be Bambi or Ghost or The History Boys or Philadelphia. Some people claim that they never cry at movies. This is a list to test for your soul. If you can watch every movie on this list and not shed a single tear, officially you don't have one. So as usual, we're going to start at number 10 because it's more fun for me to work in reverse order, and number 10 is Hunger Point. Even though I've put this on my list, honestly, good luck finding it. It's a made-for-TV movie based on a novel of the same name, starring Christina Hendricks and Barbara Hershey. Tells the story of the Hunter family, where food is always an issue. Marcia, the mother of the family, pushes her own food issues onto her daughters, Franny and Shelley, who develop their own complex relationships with food. It comes to a point that Shelley is hospitalised for anorexia, and the battle to stay thin wins over the battle to live. It's really hard to track down. I've only got it on a VHS copy rather than DVD, so if you do find it, email me, let me know where you found it. Number 9 is The Boy in the Striped Pyjamas. The Boy in the Striped Pyjamas is a book by John Boyne about a young boy of 9 named Bruno, who loves to play with his friends and go to school, among other fun things to do in Germany in the 1940s. That is until his father's job forces him to move to Poland, to a particularly odd camp called Outwith, which consists of a small house with an odd fence beside it. His older sister, Gretel, informs him that it will only be for the foreseeable future, which she figures to be about 2 weeks. However, things do not go as quickly as they'd hoped, so Bruno takes a look around and peers out the window to see what is beyond the fence. What he sees to him is amazing. So many people, old men, young men, boys of all ages, wearing the same striped pyjamas. He asks Gretel about them and finds out that they're called Jews, which according to Gretel aren't really people. Later on, Bruno decides to investigate himself. While walking around, he meets a young boy around his age called Shmuel. After talking for a while, they form an odd sort of friendship, meeting as often as they can at one spot on the fence. The film adaptation is very close to the book and it is utterly heartbreaking. Number 8 is I Am Sam. I Am Sam is a 2001 American drama film written and directed by Jesse Nelson and starring Sean Penn as a father with a developmental disability, Dakota Fanning as his inquisitive 7-year-old daughter, and Michelle Pfeiffer as his lawyer. Sam, a mentally handicapped man, meets a woman who takes advantage of him sexually. 9 months later, she drops off a baby girl and disappears into the night. Though he's not able to understand all the implications of this, Sam does his best to raise the girl, who he names Lucy, with the help of some of his friends. Lucy turns out to be very bright, but after a while realises the gulf between her own and her father's intelligence. She even starts to act dumb, pretending that she can't read and so on. When he calls her on this, she confesses that she never wants to be smarter than she is. She is 6 years old at that time. Shortly thereafter, the school realises Lucy is being raised by a mentally handicapped person and they report it. Lucy gets taken into foster care pending a court trial to figure out if Sam is capable of raising her. Sam seeks out a pro bono lawyer who initially resistant to the idea of representing him, but eventually gets up to bat with everything she has. Sam ends up moving in just down the street from the foster home. He's not aware that this is a bad thing, and Lucy runs away to Sam's house repeatedly, and he keeps bringing her back to the foster home because he knows she has to obey the law. Eventually, even the foster mother comes to realise how much Lucy loves her father, and one night even brings her over to Sam's house. The court case eventually goes through, and it's ruled that Sam can raise Lucy, assuming that he gets help from various resources he's proven capable of seeking out to ensure that his daughter is not without a proper education. The film will make you weep ugly tears. Number 7 is The Fault in Our Stars. Act 1, Scene 2 of Shakespeare's play Julius Caesar, in which the nobleman Cassius says to Brutus, "The fault, dear Brutus, is not in our stars, but in ourselves, that we are the underlings." Hazel Grace Lancaster, a 16-year-old with thyroid cancer that has spread to her lungs, attends a cancer patient support group at her mother's behest. During the support meeting, Hazel meets a 17-year-old boy named Augustus Waters, whose cancer caused him to lose his right leg, which was replaced with a prosthetic. Augustus is at the meeting to support his friend Isaac, whose only remaining eye is soon to be removed due to cancer. Hazel and Augustus bond immediately and agree to read each other's favourite books. Augustus gives Hazel The Price of Dawn, and Hazel recommends An Imperial Affliction, a novel written by Peter Van Houten about a cancer-stricken girl named Anna that parallels Hazel's own experience. After Augustus finishes reading her book, he is frustrated upon learning that the novel ends abruptly without conclusion, and Hazel explains that the novel's author has retreated following the novel's publication and has not been heard from since. What follows is a quest between Augustus and Hazel, and them falling in love despite their both equally terminal illnesses. The book will make you cry, the film will make you cry, it's a whole load of crying. Number 6 is the achingly romantic and equally tragic The Normal Heart. It's set in the 1980s New York during the rise of the AIDS and HIV epidemic, based on the play of the same name. Seen through the eyes of writer/activist Ned Weeks, played by Mark Ruffalo, founder of a prominent HIV advocacy group, Weeks prefers public confrontations to the calmer, more private strategies favoured by associates, friends, and closeted lover Felix Turner, played by Matt Boomer. Their differences of opinion lead to arguments that threaten to undermine their shared goals. If you don't cry huge, ugly tears by the end of this film, you're officially not even human. Comments, queries, suggestions, you can follow me on Twitter. It's at Airtime Geek, or Instagram at Airtime of the Geek. You can email me, it's paulab@ignitionradio.co.uk. You can call the studio on our new number, it's 01642 329 620. Continuing with my top 10 countdown of films to watch to see whether or not you have a soul is number 5, My Girl. My Girl is a 1991 coming-of-age drama directed by Howard Zeff and starring Anna Klumsky, Macaulay Culkin, Dan Aykroyd and Jamie Lee Curtis. Set in the summer of 1971, the film revolves around Veda Sultanfus, played by Klumsky, an 11-year-old girl living with her father, Aykroyd. Veda is obsessed with death. Her mother is dead and her dad owns a funeral parlour. Her best friend, Thomas J., played by Culkin, has various allergies, and her father falls in love with a makeup expert, Shelley, whom he hires for his parlour. Veda tries everything to split them up while sticking around with Thomas J. for some various adventures. Then the movie breaks our heart. Number 4 is Old Yeller. Old Yeller is a film about a boy and a stray dog in a post-American Civil War Texas. 15-year-old Travis Coates has a rough responsibility taking care of his mother, little brother Arliss, and the family farm whilst his father goes away on a cattle drive. Then the wilderness blows a stray yellow dog into his life, whom he initially takes a strong dislike to, until Old Yeller saves Arliss from a mama bear. Kids shouldn't play with bear cubs. The two become inseparable partners, hunting and facing the dangers of the Wild West together. Then a rabid wolf comes along, and Old Yeller does not have babies. Number 3 is Up. Up is a 2009 film and the story of septuagenarian named Carl Fredrickson, played by Edward Asner, who had promised his wife Ellie that they would one day have an adventure and move to Paradise Falls in Venezuela like their childhood hero Charles Muntz. However, life got in the way of them doing it repeatedly, and she passed away before they could. Carl, guilt-ridden, shuts himself off from society in a house they built together. When land developers threaten and scheme to destroy their home, Carl decides to take and fulfill the promise to his wife. Being a retired balloon man, he ties thousands of helium balloons, the leftovers of his old trade, to his house and sets off for Paradise Falls. He has an accidental stowaway in the person of wilderness explorer Russell, who has been trying to earn his assisting the elderly badge by helping Carl. There's more to it than that, of course, but it's hard to give away without spoiling. Suffice to say, travelling thousands of miles in a house lifted by helium balloons is probably the least adventurous thing Carl and Russell do. Up is Pixar's 10th film and their first full-length 3D film. It has the honour of being the second animated film to be nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars, following Beauty and the Beast, and it's also the first fully CGI film to be honoured with the nomination. While the film didn't win that award, it did get Pixar another Oscar for Best Animated Feature Film, as well as the Oscar for Best Original Score. Number 2 on my list is The Green Mile. The year was 1935. John Coffey, a gentle giant black man, has been condemned to die by the electric chair for the raping and killing of 2 young girls. What follows is a supernatural journey that not only reveals Coffey's wondrous powers, but proves he didn't do the crime. Sadly, though, he figures he'd be better off in a world without pain and suffering. He still does the time, and the journey towards the old Sparky changes the compassionate lead's guard life forever. I start crying with this film around the 40-minute before the end mark, and then don't stop for hours afterwards. In fact, one time when watching this film, a neighbour actually came and knocked on my door to see if I was all right because she could hear me crying so loudly. So we've reached the number 1, and the movie that I've picked for number 1 is a film called Dear Zachary. And I don't think many people will have heard of this one, but I want as many people as possible to see it and let it burn into their hearts forever. I stumbled across this film when I was going through a bit of a documentary kick and wanted to see something different, and I found it on a list of top 10 documentaries I wouldn't have seen. Dear Zachary, a letter to his son about his father, was made in 2008, and it's a documentary dealing with the life and death of one Dr. Andrew Bagby, a resident at a family practice in Pennsylvania. Bagby was found dead under suspicious circumstances in November 2001. Suspicion immediately fell on ex-lover Shirley Turner, whose shoddy alibi was compounded when she fled her home on the Isle of Newfoundland in Canada. Shortly after being taken into custody, Turner announced she was pregnant with Andrew's child, a boy she named Zachary. Initially, Andrew's close friend, Ken, made a film as a personal memoir and scrapbook so that Zachary could know what kind of person his father was. However, as events transpired, the focus shifted into the incompetence of the Canadians' courts in keeping Turner behind bars, as well as the plight of Bagby's parents, David and Kate, as they battled to get custody of Zachary, the last living thing they had of their son Andrew, and justice for the slain boy. Get it wherever you can and watch it. It is an incredible story. Your heart will absolutely break for David and Kate Bagby as they mourn the loss of their son and then find happiness in their grandson Zachary. And I can't recommend this film highly enough. If you don't cry at this film, you don't have a soul. This is like the one film on the list where I say if you didn't cry at any of the rest, if you didn't cry at this one, you do not have a soul. That was my top 10. If you're catching up on YouTube, then please like and subscribe to this video and our channel. You can send comments, queries, suggestions. If you follow me on Twitter, it's at Airtime Geek, or Instagram, it's at Airtime of the Geek. You can email me, it's paulab@ignitionradio.co.uk, or you can call in the studio on our new number, it's 01642 329 620. Coming soon will be my own website, which will be airtimeofthegeek.xyz, or XYZ if you're in the States. So, before we go to the Game of Thrones recap, of which there are 3, I want to have a quick word on the Warcraft movie. As a WoW player for the Horde, I went to see the movie on, I think it was the first day it was out, with the bestie, of course. Generally, I really, really enjoyed the movie, and having actually played like the Warcraft strategy games as well as World of Warcraft, I can honestly say that if you're not a fan of these things, you're going to have a really hard time telling what's going on with some of the characters, because even knowing the history and the lore, having read all the stories about this, I still found it a little bit confusing at times. For fans, it's an absolute dream movie. For non-fans, I can see where they would have trouble following this film.